Hey, Matt, welcome to the Z Learning Podcast. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Zeb. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. So, for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. Give us your elevator pitch, your spiel for your company, so everyone can learn about you and what you do.
So, old days, I'd be called the travel agent. I think that's a horrible word. Became travel advisors. I like to think of myself more as a travel concierge or a designer. I save you the time and the stress of vacation. I do all of it for you, and it's specifically for you. There's no pre-canned itinerary. There's nothing that, oh, here's what you can do. It's based off of what you share with me, what you like, what you want to do, what you don't want to do, your experiences in the past, and it's all unique and it's all authentic in terms of the experiences that you have when you're in the destination. There's no 100-person tour. It's you, your family, your friends, whomever you want it to be. Everything is based off of your personal preferences. As I say, unique and authentic is what it's about. People, hear luxury, they think, oh, that's going to cost me a lot of money. No, luxury means that you're the focus. Everything is centered around you. It's expert service, it's personal service, and it's service for you the way you want it when you want it.
Love it. So it's tours tailored to your needs and
Exactly.
you get to see the highlights or the excursions that you want to go on, things you want to see. If you're into food, if you're a foodie, or if you like cities, or if you're more of a nature person, you like to go out in the wildlife. Or maybe you're a couple who likes, I'm a little bit more the former. My wife is more the latter. You have a mix for the people who are taking this tour. Is that what am I understanding correctly?
Exactly. Or, you've got a family. It's you, your wife, and two kids. Um, One kid likes being adventurous and the other likes the theater. Well, we can make that work. You don't have to be together the whole time. It's really designed around what you want to do.
Love it. And I think that now, I think a lot of people, there was a lot of talk when the internet got more mainstream, like, oh, travel agents, they're sort of some travel agencies going by the wayside. But I could be wrong, but I think they've made a comeback in that, like, people appreciate it. It's now more of a premium service. I don't mean luxury like it's expensive, but it's like in the sense that for busy people, we have less time than probably ever before. And I think people just want that off their plate. They want to delegate somebody to plan the itinerary for them, do the research, find the good hotels, find the restaurants, find the hikes or whatever, and have someone plan it out for them.
For sure. And I'll go back just for a second to that's where I think what people think of with the travel agent is the whole booking process. And that's where I try to differentiate what I'm doing in terms of it's not an agent. It's, your travel friend. And it is a premium. That's a really good word for it. And everything that I advise people on or suggest, it's based off of my travels, my times in these countries, or, obviously I haven't been to 200 countries, but partners I have there or friends who are other advisors who do this and do specialize in parts of the world that I haven't been to as many times. So people have started to come back. It started really, I think, after COVID, because so much was different, and you had to worry about rules and regulations, and people started to get used to the whole idea of getting help again, because really it's vacation. You don't want to work. You don't want to work during vacation. You don't want to work putting it together.
Exactly. And so actually take us through your journey a little bit. How did you start this business where you're helping people plan their vacations from A to Z, taking care of everything? What were you doing before? Obviously, you said you always had a knack. People were calling you the travel agent. Which is interesting. My wife's like the same way. People will say that. Like how did you get into this business?
So I worked in something completely different for 22 years. I worked in TV news, and towards the end of it, got a little bored, a little antsy, and I fell in love with traveling.
Were you a
In
news anchor? Sorry to interrupt.
No, I told the anchors what to do.
Okay.
I started as a producer, so I put the show together, and by the end, I was running the whole newsroom. So, uh, definitely, it did set me up for this because it had to do with a lot of planning, a lot of itineraries, a lot of budgets. So, a lot of the same skill set, writing, photography, videography. Um, in 2015, I fell in love with travel. I went to London for the first time to watch the Jets. The Jets were playing the Dolphins. I said, I gotta go, I gotta go. I got over my fear of flying. And ever since then, that was just my thing. I wanted to
Wait,
travel
wait
the
a
world.
minute, just back up for a second. So you had a fear of flying, and now you are a travel concierge, travel planner?
Yeah, I was scared
How's
of
that
flying
for
for the first
irony?
30 something years of my life. I know. My parents say it's real ironic, and it's the right use of the word for a change.
That's
So
inspiring. That's great.
yeah. You can get over your fears and you can make the most of them. So as I started to, travel more, it was just what I wanted to do. And I had all of these itineraries designed for myself, long before the trip was even going to happen. Like I had stuff planned 2, 3 years out. I was using points and miles as well. Some family and friends started to ask me questions. And when I was ready to make a change, this kind of a few people suggested it to me, and here I am. Um, it not what necessarily I expected to do, but I love to see people enjoy their travel. That's what it comes down to, And you ask me why, or why I got into it. When I was traveling, there were some times I reached out to travel advisors and said, this is what we want to do, or this is what I want to do if it was just me. And I got bad advice a couple of times in terms of, oh, well, you can't do this. Like my family went someplace for the holidays, and they said, oh, you can't go snorkeling there. You can do a kayak first, but you can't just take a boat, which never really made sense to me. But I was busy. I didn't feel like arguing the whole time about it. So I just said, fine, whatever. And no one wanted to kayak. We're not a kayaking family. It was a miserable experience. I was like, man, they always tell me stuff that they like or they think everyone else is going to like. And that's not what we want. That's not what you want. That's not what anyone wants. You don't want someone else telling you what you're going to like. You want them to listen to you. You want to be heard. And I said, I can do that. I can listen to people. I know how frustrating it is when you're not listened to, or, you know, just going back to points and miles for a second, if you book this great trip in business class in a 5-star hotel, and then you get there and you have no idea what to do. The bloggers told you how to get there, but now you're there and it's like, well, what am I supposed to do when I'm here? So that's where I really wanted to step in and bridge that gap for folks.
That's great. I can really see the value in that. And, people who are, either really cheap or whatever, that, okay, they're not your target market. People who love doing all the work themselves and control freak, they're not your target market. But people who appreciate the value as I do and say, hey, this is a great, convenient way to have someone plan it all, soup to nuts, A to Z, do all the things I don't like so I could just enjoy my trip. I think there's a lot of people in that market. And so tell me, what have been some highlights, surprises maybe since you've got into this industry?
Um, that's a really good question. I got to think. I mean, the biggest highlight for me was a couple called me and said, we want to go on a cruise. It's sold out. It's 2 weeks away. And I said, let me see what I can do. And I called them 2 hours later, and I had two cabins for them because they were traveling with their adult children. And they're like, how'd you do that? And I was like, I've got secrets. And each cabin had $300 of onboard credit that I was able to get them as well. So that was just like a real highlight because it was the first time I was able to make that sort of magic happen for a family. Another is I had a couple go to London um, just a few weeks ago, and they enjoyed it so much. As soon as they got back, they called and said, "Let's plan our next trip, and we're bringing our cousins with us." Um, so it's those things. Just knowing that people enjoyed themselves is really the biggest highlight for me. What's surprised me the most is probably so many people just being willing to say, okay, I take your word for it, and not really, I my background, I asked a lot of questions in my old career. And
You were in the news,
now,
you were media.
right. I always expect to be asked like 20 questions as to why I suggested this hotel over a different one or why this tour over another one. And people go, oh, well, you're the expert. Okay, I trust you. I'm like, you don't want a reason? They're like, no, I trust you. So that's been a pleasant surprise.
That's good. I mean, that's also a great client. And I mean, it just underscores what we were saying before, that so many people see the value in just like letting an expert handle it for them. And just like you had with the scuba diving, or what was it, the
The
snorkeling,
snorkeling, yeah.
a lot of people just don't question, but you do the work. You actually are thorough and not just telling them they can't do this or they can't do that because you don't want to do the research. You actually figure it out for them. And I think people appreciate that. For my own curiosity and probably a lot of my listeners and viewers, what are the most popular destinations you keep getting kind of over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm in New York, so Western Europe is huge. Probably the biggest is Italy for me. And
Not surprising.
right, you can't go wrong with Italy. It's kind of how much do you want to do when you're there? How many places do you want to try to get to? How long you're willing to spend, because you can't do everything in one vacation over there. Um,
And can you tailor to
so
anyone's budget? Like you can within a certain budget, you can kind of, if whether they want to be really high end or maybe more like, I don't know, hostel, or do you have a minimum?
I don't have a minimum. Look, I'm not the person to ask for a hostel. I don't know that world. It's 4 and 5 star hotels, generally five. Some of them, you can have a great 4 star hotel. So I do work with those, but it's a higher end client generally. Um, money gets you so far with certain things. Other times it's knowing when to travel. If you're going to just stay on Italy for a second, if you're going to Italy in February, it's going to be less money than if you're going in July.
Oh yeah,
Now,
sure.
you can't really go to the Amalfi Coast the same way in February because most of it's closed, but it's okay. Well, I can go to Florence for less money in February and get to have that experience the way we want to. So it's some of it is the off peak and knowing when to travel sometimes. So that's where I go back to it's, luxury isn't always about money. It's the experience, it's the service and knowing that you're getting it.
Well said. Yeah. And it is a very different experience. I once went to Santorini in the summer, and that is, of course, that's like the most expensive time to go, and but it's blazing hot. But you know what? I went in a couple years ago. I went in April, and yes, you wore a little jacket, light jacket. Some of the days
Hmm.
even hot enough that you didn't need it, but it was still just as beautiful and pleasant.
Right.
Especially when the sun was out. So there's always, creative ways, and I guess it always depends on a person's preference, and you are able to customize it and tailor it to your customer's needs. What are some things you would warn a traveler? Uh, like where do like some don't do's maybe, or maybe some do's and don't do's, things that you would advise people
Yeah.
in general.
Make sure you have an international calling plan or cellular plan for your travels, because if you can't get onto your phone, we're all lost nowadays. Everyone's checking their email or texting, logging onto social. Um, so that'd be a big part because you don't want to get hit with that bill when you get home. If you haven't traveled internationally since COVID, know what's changed. Um, I remember the first time I was in Paris, we walked into the Louvre, no problem. You can't do that anymore. You need a reservation. You need a time slot. And it's like that.
Really, you need a reservation now. Wow. It's like the
Well,
White
I mean, look, you can,
9/11. You can't just like go to the I went to the White House when I was a kid. Like just walked in, there was a line. My grandmother's like the late 90s. Now it's only like tour groups. I think you have to make it advance.
right. It's the same way. I mean, look, you can wait, but you may not get in because they want to limit how many people. At first it was the whole we want to keep people healthy thing, and then all of a sudden they didn't want the overcrowd. And I'm not using just the Louvre, it's just about everywhere. They don't want the overcrowding that they used to have. Because
You should also check people for paint or other things so they don't deface works of art in the name of the environment, as is happening.
well, you'd be. I mean, I'm a big fan of the of preservation of art, and you don't take photos in a museum, but you see people taking photos all the time now, and that's. I'll let someone else fight that battle. Um, but some things to know. As it's a little different now. Prices have gone up since COVID. I mean, you need to know that. Otherwise, you're going to have a little bit of sticker shock. Um, there are deals to be had. You just have to know when or who to look to. Um, some other warnings, I guess, would be know know where you're going, know the culture. You don't want to walk into some place and be that person, the one who doesn't act the right way. You
You
go
don't
to
want to embarrass America if you're American.
right. You don't want to go into the Mid East and start dropping F bombs all over the place or being loud or drinking in public. I mean, it's just not accepted the same way. Mid East is one of my favorite places to travel. I think it's beautiful over there. You just have to act a little bit differently. It's not a negative. It's just a different world. Same if you go to parts of Asia, the world in Tokyo, the world of Japan is or South Korea is different than what we have here. We have to acclimate a little bit about ourselves, and I make sure my travelers know what they need to, and I, also send them with um, packets of information. So in case they forget or they're like, "Oh, what did he say again?" They've got it right on their phone.
That's really great. So you also help them like, some do's and don't do's, a little bit about the culture and things that really help them prepare and have the best experience. What's like the most crazy off the map, off the crazy destination anyone's ever asked for? I'm not even saying you necessarily plan the trip, but anyone's ever asked for.
I don't know if they were serious or not, but someone was asking about Russia about a year and a half ago.
Like
um,
the
so
war.
that certainly seemed crazy at the time. Um, Probably the hardest task I've had was someone asking for authentic cuisine in Dubai. Because if you know Dubai,
Yeah. I was
eh,
just funny because I just literally last week watched a food. I don't know if you've ever watched Somebody Feed Phil.
I
Uh,
haven't, no.
oh, it's a great show on Netflix. It's Phil Rosendahl. He's the producer. He created So Everybody Loves Raymond and whatever.
Okay, very cool.
To Dubai, and I knew almost not. I knew about malls. I knew it was wealthy. That there's commercial shopping, but I didn't realize it's almost like the U.S. of the Middle East. Like everyone's from somewhere else, and there's like food of like every kind of cuisine there.
Yes. Yeah, you can find the best sushi there. You can find it's incredible. So when someone's like, "Oh, I want the food that they eat there," going back hundreds of years. Well, Dubai wasn't around hundreds of years ago, and everything there is new now. I mean, and if something's still around from like the 80s, it's amazing because they're constantly cycling through. Restaurant closes, new one opens up. New resorts are opening up all the time, and they get rid of the old ones, not because they're outdated, but it's just we always want to be new. At least Dubai always wants to be new. And so when someone's like, "Oh, I want that really authentic cuisine," like, let's see if
Yeah,
I can get them into someone's home for a meal.
exactly. Just go to someone's house and knock on the door and say, I want a meal. In that part of the world, you might actually get some people who are willing to do that, from what
Yeah.
I. But yeah, Dubai, it's interesting because they I think it was always a place where there was merchants and people kind of like it was like a port or some so yeah, and I mean if you want, I guess like authentic Arab Middle Eastern food, I mean there are probably plenty of other countries where you can go to get that. But yeah, that's always interesting. And some people want super authentic or they want to see history. Some people, of course, want, new cutting edge, or they want theater, or they want hiking in the mountains, volcano, whatever. And that's really great that you can tailor it to everybody's unique tastes. Where can people find you so they can book their next trip?
The easiest way is my website, which is uniqueluxurytravels.com. I kind of stress the travels because it does have the S there. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. They're all different variations, basically, of unique luxury travels there at the end of it. Um, I just became a advisor connected to Virtuoso. So you can also find me on virtuoso.com. If you search Matt or Matthew Stein, you'll find me there, which I'm excited about because it provides me more tools to give my travelers more amenities, more perks, more benefits. Really opens up the world to them in terms of access to even more than what I'm able to provide. Sometimes they'll have that little extra bit of weight to help. But those would be the main places, as I say. The easiest is uniqueluxurytravels.com.
Awesome. And you're opening the world to so many people. Thank you so much. I'll also put all that information in the show notes so people can easily reach you. And thank you so much, Matthew. And I look forward to talking to you again sometime in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me, Zev.